Ruth, this is a side of the patient that you might find in therapy that you're wanting to help and provide solutions and strategies for the individual. But as you're kind of doing that, what you're noticing over a period of time, that these strategies or interventions aren't landing. But a common theme is complaining. I'm Rita Younan.
I'm Ruth Holt. We're both advanced schema therapists, supervisors and trainers, and we're doing a mode series where we're really highlighting one particular mode each 7 minutes. Today we're highlighting the mode called the complaining protector, which is an avoidant mode. It's a mode where we might be talking about difficult content, distressing content, but it's still got an element of avoidance where I don't really know how to get soothed, but I definitely know how to talk about the problem.
Yeah, and it gets a little bit of a bad rap in some ways because, some of the ways that you might describe it or see it in the therapy room is it might be quite whiny, complainy, needy, helpless, etc., and nothing seems to actually help in the process. But I think it's important that we recognize that it's, again, a way of attempting to get needs met and maybe we can just talk a little bit about, why a complaining protector might develop for somebody, Ruth.
Yeah, I think for the people that I've worked with who have this mode, there's often been a lack of attunement for them in their childhood in growing up that there hasn't really been effective soothing. So when I'm distressed and I run to someone that they see it, they name it, they validate it and then help me regulate, there hasn't been that. And there has been often a lot of modeling of talking about problems, maybe even connecting based on problems. So if my main way of being seen and heard is to talk and talk and talk about the distress, then I don't want to have it resolved necessarily. If I have it resolved, then I lose the connection. So there's been that lack of attunement. That's a key component. And often also a lack of agency. How does that play out for the people that you're working with, Rita?
Yeah, look, I think kind of what you're talking about is this autonomy and lack of agency, kind of feeling in control to be able to change some of these things. And so there's this helplessness. And Jeff Young did speak about schemas being acquired as a result of a selective internalization. And if I think about some of my key patients that tend to have this particular coping mode, it really was developed or acquired, if you like, as a result of that internalization. So usually typical schemas might be negativity, pessimism, failure, dependence, incompetence. So I can't actually make changes. All I can do is complain about the problem.
Yeah. And for people when they've experienced perhaps someone important to them in their life who's had ongoing illnesses, mental health things that never got resolved, that really does internalize a sense that bad things just keep happening and nobody can do anything to change them. And so this side develops that kind of talks about the problem, but there's no soothing.
Yeah, and so what happens in relationships for these individuals is they seek help and they reject the help at the same time. So this kind of help seeking, rejecting type of dynamic that occurs. And behind that is somebody that really needs to be heard, understood, supported, guided, etc. But the nature of the complaining protector is that people just kind of want to go, oh, I just want to get away from this.
Yeah, and that's where, as the therapist, it's really important for you to start to notice how you feel in the room, because you might be talking about distressing content, but that you might have an irritation, a kind of sense that whenever I say something, it's sort of the yeah, but happens, or I feel like I'm kind of pushing for change and it's never happening. So I think you really need to be attuned as a therapist, because you don't want to get into the same dance again, where we end up becoming almost like demanding parents, right? Where we say, well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried something else? And the client feels again quite helpless and hopeless and unheard. We want to step out of that dance, start to notice this side, notice it coming in the room, explore the origin. Where did I learn that? Where did I learn that that's what help looks like? And see if it actually is helping or if it's keeping you stuck.
Yeah, because I guess essentially what happens is it keeps the client feeling frustrated because they're continuing to express the need for support and help in this way that creates this dynamic. I had a really clever client, bring to my awareness that she was in that mode. And here I am giving her these tips and things. And I was like, oh my God, yes, you are in this mode, but she could also recognize that this was a mode that she really hated because it was what was modeled by her mother, and she just didn't want to be like that as well.
Yeah, so we need to really identify it. What does it feel like when I'm going into this mode? What happens in my body? What are the cues? What are the phrases I might be saying over and over again?
And one of the lovely things about this particular patient, she was even aware of how her body was positioned, or the posture when she was in this mode. She was kind of sunken and kind of helpless. And when she'd connect with that and try and lean into her healthy side and get out of that, she'd immediately lengthen her spine and she'd be up, and it'd be a completely different way of relating. So really kind of noticing how these modes manifest physically is really important in helping with change as well.
And as the therapist, we also need to be attuned to that, call it out, pull up a chair for this side and start that interview, learn and have compassion on it. It's possibly the best thing I could have done growing up. That might have been the only way I was getting any needs met. But now as an adult, is it really serving me? Is it really meeting those needs? And then how do I learn how to soothe that little vulnerable child more effectively? How do I learn to have a vulnerability that allows myself to feel soothed, that doesn't but everything, but actually kind of trusts that someone can really hear me and meet my needs?
Yeah, how can I belong, without having to be in that particular way of relating? Because for me growing up, that was the way to belong and connect. So how do I do that?
Yeah, so we want to really encourage clinicians to be on the lookout for this mode, find a name that works for you and the client for this mode, and really externalize it, help them to see the origin, and then make some changes. And if you're a client with this mode, we'd really encourage you to explore that with your therapist, maybe start to take some notice when you go into that mode. And there's more information for therapists to get training and help with working with this mode at the end of this clip.